Hello, guys. Welcome to the HLM Podcast. This podcast is sponsored. Is a production of Active Secretary, and we are broadcasting this podcast to a lot of websites, 20 plus podcasting website. And in addition to that, we are also airing this as a segment on Radio Future. So there are a lot of things happening. This is the second time that we are hosting this podcast. The second time it's happening, and now we are still trying to get into the flow to understand exactly what is going to what kind of things we are going to share with our listeners. So if you are hearing um, this podcast on whatever social media platform that you are on, and if you have any questions, you have any comments, please do pen it on the social media site that you are viewing this content on. So we are airing to quite a few stations, and we just started not long ago. So now we are like trying to ensure that the stream is going live on all the social media platform, including on Radio Future. Well, it seems like the stream on Radio Future is always so good. And the other websites, let me take a look at it. It seems like it's pretty good as well. So let's get straight to the point. There are a few highlights that we would like to share with you guys. And I just want to share one personal experience. For this podcast, right? We actually decided to do some preparation on the news that we want to share with you guys, so that we can keep all of us updated on what's happening. And then we decided to use the AI. We decided to use the AI models to um, do some research, and we realized that these AI models, no matter how efficient they are, you got to take their input with a pinch of salt. And why I'm saying this is because as we were doing our research, so we asked the AI model, like, what kind of news or what kind of insights can we share with our audience, because we want to like use AI as much as possible to speed things up. And so we realized we so the AI model answered gave us a lot of good research topics that we believe will take off with a lot of user listeners. And they were suggesting so many things that's happening around the world and so on. So we thought, wow, that's really good content, that's really good, because there's so many interesting news around the world right now. Now we tabulated whatever the AI model said. Then we decided to do a second due diligence on the topic, and also to get the source of the topic as well. And to that, we found that 100% of the news that the AI model suggested were all fake. It's all fake, it's all made up, and it's all hallucinated. And we thought that it's real, because it sounded so real, as though like those things really happen in those countries. And one of for example, right, they were giving us some news on cybersecurity insurance, and they said that there will be new cybersecurity insurance bill that is being discussed in Congress. And there's a very high possibility that they will be passing this cybersecurity bill, and this will affect a lot of industries. And they go on to describe exactly what is going to be, the effect on the industry, and how will it affect the industries and so on. Then it turned out we did some research, and then it turned out that no, there weren't such bill being discussed at all. So this is something that is very concerning. We really expected that there is a new bill that is being discussed in Congress that will be passed soon, and it will affect the industry. But there weren't such a news. There weren't such a news. And let me just give you another example. As we were going through, the thing, and they were saying that if I just can't recall properly. Let me see, what was it. Oh, they were saying that some company came up with a new AI model that could threaten, could compete with Microsoft, could compete with this Anthropic and so on. So it's like a new emerging firm or something like this. And yet we discovered, when we do research, there weren't such news at all. There weren't such news. And yet the AI kept on promoting and kept on talking in depth about what is happening. So my thinking is that if you are, or your company is interested in using AI to do research, I suggest that it's better to do a double take. I'm not saying that it will always be, the answers given by AI will always be wrong. I guess that sometimes it might be right, but there are times that it can be wrong. So, and based on our experience, it seems like they are wrong most of the time. And in our case, in our first time using this AI model to do research, it was wrong 100% of the time, okay, based on just one sample point, but it was wrong 100% of the time. And it was good that we decided to do a double take, to do due diligence on exactly what the AI was suggesting. Otherwise, we're just pushing fake news to everyone. And that is exactly not the thing that we want, because for this podcast, we want to have real conversations. We want to have real insights that are shared with all of our listeners, and that is what we are aiming for. And in order for us to do that, we have to present all of you with accurate and reliable information so that we can stay trustworthy. And in this age, trust trustworthiness is a currency that is even more valuable than the US dollar or the Chinese dollar, the Chinese yen. And we want to achieve, high level of um, trustworthiness with our listeners. That is why, if you decided to take up use this AI for your research, it's better for you to do a double take. Plus, if and my experience is that, from my experience, okay, because I deal with a lot of coding work for advanced cybersecurity solutions, and my experience is that if you want to do coding with AI, you better do a double take on exactly what the AI is suggesting, because it is actually very attractive to just prompt the AI to solve a certain problem, and getting the AI to solve it with its set of coding. But let me tell you, a lot of times those coding that is suggested by the AI model, it is very dubious, especially if the first time when I tried using it, I tried using an very advanced model, a very expensive model. And the first time I used it, I was a little bit overwhelmed by it, because when I key the prompt into the AI system, and it just goes on and on and on, giving me rows of codes. And as I stared at the generation of codes, I was thinking, like, this could be a few months of work being generated in less than 10 minutes. Okay, so at first I was very impressed. I was very impressed that this amount of code is being generated. But then again, there's something at the back of my mind because, for a lot of coders, that when you generate certain amount of code, it's better to analyze the code after you generate those codes. After you write those codes, it's better to analyze it. It's better to compile it to ensure that the code integrity is sound. Because after you generate a certain amount of code, and you need to compile it every now and then to ensure that it compiles, it forms into something that can be executed by the operating system. So if it doesn't compile, then it will show you that there are a lot of errors. Okay, so basically it's just like a taste check. You're checking whether the soup that you are cooking, is it really up to the taste? Is that the taste that you are aiming for? So when you cook something, you got to taste it every now and then to ensure that the taste is there. And the same thing is for coding as well. Every now and then after you write your codes, you got to test it. You got to test it to make sure that the code integrity is right there. So, this advanced model, it gave us so much code, so many lines of code. And there are many, many bad practices as well that that I want to share. There's just too many codes. And when we compile the codes that the AI suggested, there were so many errors, so many. And we had to spend, we took like about 10 minutes to generate about 1 week's worth of code, and we spent almost 1 month to 2 months trying to correct those codes to ensure that they really compile, to ensure that they don't have errors at all, and to make sure that they really work, and the outcome that the model generated, the outcome that the new codes generated are authentic, and users can depend on the outcome for their work. And that apparently, many times when we have used AI generated codes, we manage to come up with long strings of codes, but that cannot be compiled, that has to be corrected for its error. Then, on top of that, the outcome is dubious, which means that we have to really go into the details, go into the trenches to check on every aspect of the code to ensure that it really works, and to ensure the security part of it is secured. It's really so scary because when you are using all these kind of AI models, you uh tend to be really attracted to the part, to the speed, to how fast the model can work in order to generate all those codes. But remember, quantity can be rubbish. The most important thing is to generate quality work. So these are the things that we really experience it ourselves, and we are sharing it with our listeners. Well, we actually curated some news that we thought that it will be interesting to share with all of you. For those who have just joined in, this is the HLM podcast. It is a production of Active Secretary, and we are broadcasting this podcast on as many as 20 plus social media sites. So if you have any questions or any comments, please leave those on the social media site that you are viewing this content on. And in addition to this, the HLM podcast is also now a segment of Radio Future. So for our listeners on Radio Future, you will be able to hear this podcast live right now. This is live, it's not a recorded session. And But the podcast will be recorded. The podcast right now is being broadcasted live on 20 plus social media site. After which, if you miss the live broadcast, you can opt for the recorded podcast as well. It's going to be hosted on many more podcast platform after this. So many, all right. It's not just like three or five. It's more than that. There's so many podcast platform that are hosting our podcast right now after this session. Once it's being recorded. So okay, welcome to all the listeners on from all the social media site, and welcome to the listeners on Radio Future. Radio Future is a radio station that focuses on good music and technology related news. Now, let's go to the first thing that uh, we like to share with you. So we got this news from the White House. And what they say is that the US will be speeding up development and use of AI for national security. And what was this pertaining to is that the Trump administration said earlier this week that it will ask leading AI developers to voluntarily submit their most capable models for government cybersecurity tests before releasing them to the public. And this is because there are security fears that are mounting in Washington over powerful new AI system. Well, in fact, for us, right, for Active Secretary, we are a cybersecurity firm, and we have been doing research on our own cybersecurity AI model as well. And I don't really know what exactly is so dangerous about our AI model, because when we train our AI model, it's really to we train it in, because every AI model has a personality, and very much so it resonates with it sort of like reflects the personality of the researchers. And if the researchers who are being onboarded to doing this kind of training work, a lot of them, they really have this heart to ensure that their AI model really serves the consumers in a good way. Consumer means, I mean, the public, human, value add to the humans in a real way, in a good way, not harming humans, protecting them instead. Like, I'm in this line. I can feel that I want to protect the people. I want to protect my consumers. I want to protect my users. And therefore, our products from Active Secretary is really built with so much care and research to to in order to protect our consumers. So we have so much of these considerations, but somehow or other, maybe all this kind of we are sure that a lot of researchers have the same kind of considerations as well. But I guess that the conversation between the public and the private sector is not really there. Therefore, there is this kind of fear that is mounting in Washington. So the White House, it actually revealed on Friday that it is going to accelerate the development and the use of AI for national security application. And they stress that the technology should not be used to carry out unlawful surveillance. All right. So I know a lot of you have opinion about this. I'm not very familiar with what's going on, but let's go through this news together so that we can have a better understanding of what's going on in the White House and what's going on in the cybersecurity agencies. We need to understand where they're coming from, and it is our responsibility to work with our country's in-house, in-country government and cybersecurity agencies to value add to the consumers and the people as well. So they say that the Trump administration, they are going to ask leading AI developers to submit their most capable models for government cybersecurity tests before releasing them to the public as security mounts in Washington over powerful new AI system. And there is some issue about this because the dynamics, the human resource dynamics between the public and the private sector has somehow or rather changed a little bit over the years. I would say that I am very confident of it because apparently a lot of talents have been lured from the public sector, out from the public sector, and into the private sector. And this is an age whereby a lot of people, a lot of capable technical people in the public sector is riding the AI wave as well and trying to build extremely innovative solutions. So maybe there could be a lack of talent to really understand what is happening with the technology that is being developed in the private sector right now. I don't know. Maybe it differs in different kinds. Maybe this dynamic is different in different countries. I don't know about it. What's your take on it? Tell us your comment on the social media site that you are viewing this content on. If you are viewing this on the social media site, do pen your opinion on the social media site, or if you are listening in on radio future, do write in to tell us what exactly is your concern and what are your thoughts about this idea. So Trump was noted as saying, under my administration, the United States can and will responsibly accelerate the use of AI across intelligence and war-fighting domains in line with American values. All right. So this goes on and say that AI technology should not be developed or used by the national security enterprise to censor free speech or to conduct unauthorized or unlawful surveillance activities. Okay, so this is a very good statement. It states that US will, when they want to accelerate the development of AI. At the same time, they do not want this AI technology to censor free speech or to conduct unauthorized or unlawful surveillance activities. Then, after this, the Pentagon was noted for slapping a former supply chain risk designation on Anthropic in March, if you remember that case. So they slapped this on Anthropic in March after it refused to back down on bans for its Claude AI to power autonomous weapons and mass US civilians. And to this, the Pentagon said it should be able to use the technology as needed as long as it complies with US law. So this slap, right? It was rebucked by the company, and so on. So Anthropic, it did not for the meeting that's coming up. Anthropic did not respond to a request for comment on the meeting with AI executive that Trump said on Friday that he planned to host as soon as next week. But based on what we read on the other news, it seems like the first person that he's going to meet up with is Sam Altman. So that's the first AI executive that the US administration is going to meet up with. And it's going to happen on next Wednesday. Now, let's check it out. Okay, great. Seems like everything's fine. I like this new platform a lot. This is an entirely platform from the cybersecurity parenting conversation that we have. So for this education and outreach initiative by Active Secretary, we are conducting a lot of different kinds of marketing initiative. We have we have the education outreach through the cybersecurity. We had through the regular webinar where we teach the users about emerging malware threats, and we teach them how to use our product to counter this kind of threats. So we also And during the session, we also teach our users where to download all these tools as well. Plus, in addition to that, we have the cybersecurity parenting podcast. If some of you could be listeners of that podcast, it's very regular, though it's very new, and that setup is a little bit more casual because we talk a lot more about parenting. And for the HLM podcast, it's a little bit more serious, where we touch about the different policy, cybersecurity policies around the world. And in fact, the HLM um, was actually what it means was the Han-Jun Live in the Moment podcast. It was supposed to be, more lighthearted, but it seems like a lot of people they want to learn about the latest cybersecurity policies, and that is why we made a little bit of tweak to it. But we'll see how it goes. Is this for this particular podcast? Is the second run. It's still very new. The first podcast was like 1 week ago or 2 week ago, and this is just the second podcast. And we are observing a lot of statistics. We're airing to a lot of countries around the world, airing to Russia, United States, Europe, China, and even airing on radio station. So a lot of things are happening. We are seeing a lot of statistics, and we will refine our outreach and education initiative moving forward. In fact, we didn't have so many outreach before. It was like about 20 to 30% outreach through podcasts, webinars, and all this kind of radio station broadcasting. But now, moving forward, we have shifted the entire paradigm. Uh, and we did this based on the statistics that we saw. And we decided that now we are going to go 60 to 80% of our effort on webinar, podcasting, and Zoom meetings. So it will be this way for at least 2 to 3 years, in addition to the development of our technology. So we are developing a lot of different kinds of cybersecurity technology. And in addition to all those cybersecurity sensor and monitor technology, we are also developing our cybersecurity AI system. And there will be different types of AI models. We will be developing a small AI cybersecurity model, a medium-sized one, and a large-sized one that is designed for enterprise customers. So the small one can be easily deployed to on-device usage and so on. So these are the upcoming changes for our company, and we will be venturing to providing cybersecurity products and products to different industries as well. So we are literally at the cutting edge of cybersecurity as well. Now, let me just go on to the second news that we saw, that we curated. Now, the other two news is related to the cybersecurity movement in Europe. There are a lot of changes in cybersecurity in Europe, and I think that this is pertaining to all the news that is coming up from United States and is changing the perception of a lot of Europeans. So in this article, right, we got this from Yahoo Finance, and the title of this article is How AI Cyber Threats Could Unlock a Wave of Private Equity Investment in Europe. And why do we say that? Let me just go through the article, after which we'll go through the third article to explain why to explain why this could be an unlock of a wave of private equity investment in Europe. So this is written by Peach Book and reposted by Yahoo Finance. And what they say is that last month, the United Kingdom government they issued a policy paper warning that should focus the minds of every PE investor in technology. So the document that was posted, the policy paper warning, it was titled Energy Sector Cybersecurity Strategy, and it was very direct. It said that the cyber threat has increasingly focused on critical national infrastructure systems as hackers group, okay, hacktivists group, and high capability state actors strive to compromise these systems for political effect and propaganda victories. So they say that in Europe itself, PE stands for private equity. PE investors are already targeting cybersecurity investment focused specifically on AI driven threats to the critical infrastructure and defense. And there is one particular investor named Urazo, and they say that it is one such investor that has made notable deals in the sector. So last month, this firm is based in Paris. It has invested in a company called Nextron Systems, that is a company based in Frankfurt. It's a cybersecurity group focusing on threat intelligence and cyber forensic, and it is offering its software products designed to deal with advanced persistent cyber threats. And the company itself, it gets about 60% of its revenue from critical infrastructure, public sector, and defense clients. And this company, that is this Eurozone, it previously backed the merger of Brightwell, a UK cybersecurity company specializing in national infrastructure, and French cybersecurity specialist iTracing, along with London-based Oakley Capital and Canada's Zagat. So they have this interest in cybersecurity, especially those that are provided for critical infrastructure and defense. Then other PE investor in the space include Boston-based PSG Equity. So they are investing a lot of this kind of software or patented technology that rebuilds, that try to eliminate risks such as malware and ransomware, and it is being used by government intelligence, defense, critical infrastructure, and financial services clients. So why is all this investment going on, and why did the writer say that it could create a new wave of investment in cybersecurity? They say that there's a lot of things that's AI turbo threats, and they claim that AI has totally changed the cybersecurity landscape. Why? Because their research have shown that attacks that once required weeks of preparation can now be executed in hours. And you know about phishing campaigns? Now, phishing campaigns are now generated at scale. Why? Because synthetic voices, it can clone executives in real time. And ransomware as a service has now put advanced attack capabilities in the hands of low skilled actors. So right now, what happens is that what used to be opportunistic, right? It is now a lot more highly engineered operation. And that is why now all of us, we are now seeing a lot more incidents across PE firms and their portfolio company. And they say that critical infrastructure is an area which is coming under increasing attack as we are in a world of heightened political tensions and nation state actors. Another person was noted as saying, not only as the attacks are getting more frequent, AI, artificial intelligence, has made these attacks even more convincing. So they were giving some example. When you get a press release talking about an acquisition or an investment in a new firm, that sort of information is now being used by attackers. And the impersonation are no longer a prince from Africa, okay? Because they understand the history of the company. So the attacks are going to be so much more advanced. And now the next frontier, it could be, okay, it could be machine identity. And most organization, based on research, right? Most organizations have no clear framework for managing this kind of new threats. That is why this new threat environment is creating a regulatory mandated spending obligation that is uncorrelated to the economy. And what this means is that the economy in Europe could be going down, but yet the spending on cybersecurity solutions could be going up. And that is why it is uncorrelated. So they stated that as of now, the EU has committed 1.3 billion euro to invest in AI, cybersecurity, and digital skills through the Digital Europe program between 2025 and 2027. And this, they hope that the regulators and the policymaker hope that this could improve the resilience and the cybersecurity protection of critical infrastructure. Then, alongside this funding, it has also introduced another thing that is called the NIS2, Direct and the Digital Operational Resilience Act, landmark cybersecurity framework. So they introduced this framework in October 2024 and January 2025 respectively. And this particular policy is to make cybersecurity investment a legal obligation across critical sectors from the energy all the way to the financial sector. But the problem is the barrier to entry to this kind of industry is extremely high for in Europe because it could take many years for a company to obtain security clearances, regulatory credentials, and local trust before even winning a single critical infrastructure client. And these people, these infrastructure clients that are very deemed as very critical to the entire continent, they are less likely to buy on price. It's not that, oh, it's cheap, therefore they will buy. No, they need the best technology, and therefore they are much less price sensitive. So now in Europe, the complexity there could be this PE wave in cybersecurity, and but then there is also the issue of languages because in Europe the complexity is multiplied across languages, regulatory regime, and culture of trust. But for all these PE investors, that is the opportunity for all these PE investors. And the reason is because the harder it is to win a critical infrastructure client, the harder it is for a competitor to take them away. So there is this kind of thing going on in Europe right now. And this particular one that I want to share another article that further builds on what's happening on that could strengthen and support this PE wave. All right. So this article was released by CNBC. And the title of this article is Europe unveils tech sovereignty package amid growing concerns over reliance on US tech. And the statement is we Europe wants to be sure nobody has a kill switch. And that means that Europe wants to have their own technology, and they want to make sure that US does not have control over the European companies and the European government. So the European Commission on Wednesday, they proposed new rules to bolster homegrown tech, and there has been growing calls for Europe to diversify away from non-European providers of critical tech as geopolitical tensions have ramped up. And the European Commission was aiming to ensure no cloud providers of critical workload had the kill switch. So if let's say Europe is too reliant on certain US company and the US company decided to shut the technology off from Europe, they don't want this to happen. They want to have full control over their own technology. Now, the European Commission on Wednesday, they proposed a slew of rules, and this set of new rules, it was intended to bolster homegrown chips, AI, and cloud services, and they want to develop their own tech sovereignty among the huge reliance on products and services from the US and China. And this proposal, it was approved by all 27 member states, including new actions to bolster advanced chip manufacturing and homegrown cloud computing. That is why I'm saying that this research, right, it could provide the support, the evidence that the PE wave for cybersecurity product could could might rise in Europe. And now, given the recent geopolitical tensions across the globe, there were actually growing calls for Europe to diversify away from non-European providers of critical tech, including US tech companies. And these US tech companies, they are currently dominating the European market. And the commission president Ursula, she said in the statement, we cannot afford to depend on others for the technologies that keep our hospitals running, our energy grid stable, and our services secure. She said that in the statement. Now, as for the kill switch part, they were saying that there's this new act that is being introduced. It's called the Cloud and AI Development Act, and it is being introduced to mitigate the risk that stems from the EU's reliance on third countries for cloud computing services by implementing an EU-wide framework setting out different levels of sovereignty needed for cloud computing for sensitive workload at public organization. So right now, they are looking to ensure that cloud providers of critical workload don't have a kill switch. And they say that it is very difficult for all these US companies to reach the highest level of sovereignty because of the US cloud law. And what's happening, what's with this US cloud law is that this act actually allows US law enforcement to request user data from American companies regardless of where the data is stored. And that is why the commission president wants to make sure that their most critical sensitive data is being stored by installed in Europe, which is why it was reported by CNBC recently that the European Union was considering rules that would restrict its member governments' use of US cloud providers to handle sensitive data. And this CADA, this new act, a lot of them say that it is going to be a significant shift. Why? Because the direction of travel already goes well past residency, and now it includes ownership structures, immunity from extraterritorial laws, operational control, and supply chain transparency. Then there is a second act regarding chip. So there is a second act. It's called the Chips Act 2.0. So the first act, it actually introduced the range. So the first act actually introduced a range of measures that seek to secure semiconductor supplies and to increase the EU's global share of the market. But now, right now, Chips Act 2.0, it aims to address these over dependencies on third countries for chip design and manufacturing and insufficient preparedness for crisis. So now with this new Chip Act 2.0, they are going to look to build capacity in cutting edge semiconductor technologies that power AI. So right now the commission, they say they will prioritize building a foundry for advanced semiconductor manufacturing capabilities within the European bloc. And it is going to be very important to them because they believe, the policymaker in Europe, they believe that in this age of AI, this access to computing power, energy, talent, and digital infrastructure, it will determine which countries are going to prosper in the next few years. That is why if let's say, let's say if there's a full retreat into a Europe first tech approach, they say that it could leave the continent weaker because they don't have the capability that is as good as the US tech. But great power, the EU say that great power don't just use technology at home. They must also have the global ambition to build, to deploy, and to export their technology to the world, which is right now Europe isn't doing that. And they hope that with all these new acts, the European companies will do it. So you see, there is a lot of changes that is going on around the world right now. especially in Europe. Europe has always depended on USA for a lot of things, defense, technologies, and so on. And that is why a lot of things are building up that is telling the European policymakers and regulators that they need their own capabilities. They cannot be held ransom to an external party for their technology or for their military needs. And that is why there is all these new acts that are coming in to bolster the innovation of technology that might, to my second article that I've shared, that might increase the PE wave across Europe. So basically, those are the things that is happening. See, US, it wants to bring the AI providers under the White House control. So that itself is a little bit telling on how what kind of direction it might go to. And on the Europe side, they are taking steps to protect themselves by calling upon their firms and companies to develop their own technology so that they can build resiliency into their technology landscape. So, what do you think about it? What's your comment on this? Tell us your opinion on the social media site that you are viewing this comment on. We're airing this podcast on 20 plus social media site. Drop your comments or questions on the social media content that you're viewing this on. And in addition to that, this segment is also aired as a segment on Radio Future. It's being aired live on Radio Future. So if you are listening in on Radio Future, write to us. Leave your comment on Radio Future and tell us what do you think about it. What's your opinion about the White House, the U.S. White House direction on its own AI companies, and what do you think of the Europe's new acts on building resiliency for its tech sector? Let us know what you think. So basically, that's the end of our podcast. And I hope that we can see you again in the next episode. We hope to see you again in the next episode.